Hello, Anna. Hello, Charlie.
Hi.
Hi.
And thank you so much to the both of you that you are here today. It's Friday. Let me just check it. It's Friday. What's the date even?
16th.
The 16th, and it's 1:06 Copenhagen time. Um, and we're here to understand a bit about your new initiative. And we're going to go through some of the values, and we're going to also get a feeling of who you are as astrologers. And so just to start out with, would you, Charlie, for instance, would you start out just saying a bit about yourself and who you are and where you're from and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Charlie. I Charlie Book, and I use he or they pronouns. And I'm 26 years old, and I live outside Gothenburg in Sweden, mixing up the town and the country. Anyways, um, I started to. I was always interested in astrology and numerology and like witchy stuff as a kid, but I came across more serious astrology during one pretty dramatic Monday afternoon when I was 17. So I was just moving out of my mom's house and into my sister's house, and I didn't know my older sister, very well. And then we realized we both liked astrology, and she had like more serious astrology books. So I started to read those books, and it was like I usually say that it's like getting a map and a compass to life. It doesn't tell you exactly where you go, but you get more of a feeling of like direction or where you could go. So that's I kind of feel like astrology found me in a way.
And how old are you now? Because you said you discovered when you were 17. So how for how long have you been on this astrological path?
I'm 26 now, so
26.
almost 10 years. But I do consider myself an astrological student. I don't have like an established practice of astrology, although I do want one. And I started with studying modern astrology, but in 2020, during the pandemic when everyone had a lot of time, I went deep into Hellenistic and ancient astrology. So that's my type of astrology that I do now. And I study under Adam Ellenbos, who has Nightlight Astrology. So I'm in his year 1 and year 3 program. I skipped year 2, so.
Super, thanks. And what about you, Anne? Who are you and what's your story?
Well, my name is Ann Sundell, and I'm a Swedish-speaking Finn. So there's a little minority in Finland that speaks Swedish, and I belong to that minority. And I've been working as an astrologer since 2017 now, like professionally. So I consider myself like being an astrologer. But also like Charlie said, astrology. I took my first course when I was like 16, 17, and after that I continued studies. But really to the history, one episode in my life where I really started to get interested in astrology was when I was quite a kid, and I discovered an old paper that my granddad got, or my granddad gave it to my grandmother like 100 years ago, when
Wow.
and it was an astrological reading that an astrologer made for her, and I didn't understand so much of it, but it really caught my interest, and I looked at it quite a few times after now when I know a bit more about retrograde Mercury and stuff. So it was like one of those moments when astrology really caught my attention. And I've done a lot of modern astrology. I've been studying for psychological astrology with John Green in UK, and also I've been doing work with OPA, the Organization for Professional Astrology. So I'm modern astrologer if I would like say what's my field, modern and psychological and karmic astrology.
Wow. Cool. And then at one point, you decided to make this wonderful union of young astrologers. Can you tell me a bit about what's the story with this, and like what how did you meet Charlie, and like what made the two of you decide to do this?
Well, I think Charlie's got the story really, but how I met Charlie, it was just like from a spontaneous impulse to join a chat room in Sweden to talk about astrology. I thought it was like so good initiative that you can just meet up with people, you can just chat about astrology, and then talking to Charlie, one idea led to another, to a third, and more people joined. But I think I'll let you, Charlie, tell more about the background to this idea.
Yeah, sure. So we have a Facebook group, and I know you're in it. That's how we got to talk, Johannes. But I started this Facebook group, and it was just called Unga Astrologer, which is young astrologers in Swedish. So I kind of had an idea like 3 years ago, to just collect a bunch of young astrologers or astrology interested people, and maybe someday create an organization that would be kind of a Swedish version of AYA, the Association for Young Astrologers. That's US based. I guess anyone from the world can join, but I think there's this whole idea that I have, which is very much about the sun and the moon. So the sun for me is very like the central principle and a centralized idea. While the moon, she shares the night sky with all the planets and the stars. So there's a like decentralized idea about the moon. And I think that there's an idea about having many centers and multiplicity. So instead of having everything based in the UK or the US, I think there is a need to have a decentralized view of astrology where there can be many centers of astrology, no one like outshining the other, but it's just like the moon with the planets and the stars.
Beautiful. And the concept of putting almost an a priori value within the concept of decentralization. Could you explain that? Like, it seems like, at least in your narrative, that decentralization is a value that is inherent a good thing.
Yeah, but I do think that it's decentralization and centralization, they need to go hand in hand. You can't have like a completely decentralized organization without a leader. I think the sun and the moon need each other just as much as they need to have their own thing. So they just go hand in hand for me.
Wow, beautiful. And okay, cool. And so you decided to make this organization, and it's relatively new. I mean, what is it, like 3 weeks old or 1 month old, or like
Yeah, something
something
like
like
that.
that?
We
Yeah,
just
yeah. Yeah,
we started that as this little group of like 30 Swedish astrologers, and then I invited Anne, and then I realized, okay, she lives in Finland, and we have a lot of other people from the Nordic countries who could be interested, and like, okay, we need to make this a Nordic thing, and then it just snowballed. So the
yeah.
thing is, we don't even have a formal organization yet, or like an official organization. It's basically me and Anna and a couple of other people who are like in a like official unofficial leadership group. So but we
Yeah.
do have a website now that we launched yesterday. and we hope to make it a inaugural first annual meeting
Wow.
in July, right after the Cancer new moon. So we hope to have a meetup in Stockholm in Sweden, where, and we said Stockholm because it's probably easy for people to get there, all of that. And that would be in the afternoon with a Libra rising in Stockholm that we hope to have a inaugural first meeting. And of course, we base it on astrology. So.
Of course, that makes sense. And you Yeah, I've written a couple of things down from your homepage, and I'm just gonna take them one by one. And it's I could have ordered them in, but I did it so chronologically, so it's not the. But the first word that came to mind when I read your homepage was that it's an organization that is non-profit. So, if you would like to elaborate a bit about like your ideas about the non-profitability versus the profitability, what's your thoughts about that?
You want to go ahead, Anna?
Yeah, well, I think that it's important that it's possible for everybody to join and to know regarding how your economical status is, that you can have access to different forms, different branches of astrology, that you can get together with other people that are interested. So I think the non-profit solution is like the best one for this kind of organization. What do you think, Charlie?
Yeah, I think that there are so many opportunities for astrologers to make money, and we have ideas about making other types of not non-profit, for-profit type of organizations or businesses for astrologers in the Nordic countries as well. But I think it's been important for us to separate the two, because we really want to make this, as Anna says, an initiative where it's accessible, and we hope to really make the website accessible for people with disability and stuff like that, but also accessible for people with a low income. So we have not put any fees or anything on it right now. We might in the future, but then it will be a very low price, is our hope. So
I think it's very Pluto in Aquarius that knowledge become such an open source thing. So I from a personal perspective, I think definitely that's the future. And to be honest, I see a difficult future for these very high end astrological educations. I mean, yeah, but let's see. We don't know, but I do think that they will have a hard time in the future. So I yeah, it seems like you're definitely onto something. Then you have the term being young of age, and it seems like it's not even a quantitative measurement, but it seems like a qualitative measurement. Like, would you like either Anna or Charlie to elaborate a bit about how you qualify the variable of being young of age?
Oh, we actually kind of don't. I've seen
Okay.
that if you if you want to have it like an official youth organization and get money from the government or something because you're a youth organization, then you'll have to have some sort of um quantifying specification of age, or at least have a percentage of the organization to be under like 26 or 28 or something like that. But what we've been thinking is that will be a problem for the future. We just want members.
Yeah.
And also we you were probably gonna say that, but we've also said that it's open for anyone who is open for learning it for eternity, not like, oh, I've been into astrology for a long time and I don't have anything new to learn. Like if you have that mindset, maybe it's not a fit for you, But I think
Amazing.
most people in astrology are like, yeah, I want to learn more, or open to hearing new perspectives or anything like that.
Great. And then you have the concept of mentorship as well.
Yeah.
Would you like to
And that's
elaborate a bit
maybe what.
about what? Sorry.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. Or do you want to speak about mentorship, Anna? I think you have an interest in that. So
Yeah, I thought about when you mentioned mentorship, and we talk about the age and about the time spent with astrology, because we need everyone to be part of Naya, because we also what I see about this organization is that we have the possibility to share experiences and to support. I've been working with education a lot, with astrological education the past 4 years, almost like full time. So I also see that we have many new and aspiring astrologers that want to maybe have astrology as a profession, and we also need we need some place to be able to discuss with each other about what we have learned, what's our experiences, and how we can support each other. A place where we can also share information, share knowledge, with also for younger astrologers to be able to, like we have now, these meetings where we talk about the subject. We have a talk about ancient astrology, we have a talk about karmic astrology, and it's nothing that costs anything to anyone, but we can share knowledge and we can have discussions about these different forms of astrology. It's such a broad area of art, or what you want to call it. So that's one view of it.
Yeah, and like more experienced astrologers or astrological students can be like mentors for younger astrologers or not as experienced astrology enthusiasts. So it can be like build up to like helping younger astrologers to establish more of a practice or build more knowledge. But I don't know, we don't have the specifics of how the mentorship programs will work right now, but that's definitely one of the core ideas we have.
Wow, super cool. And then you make it very explicit that you work towards embracing multiplicity in regions, languages, cultures, ethnicities, gender, um, and that you work against discrimination and oppression.
Yep.
Makes sense. Would you like to elaborate a bit about that statement and why you think it's important to be explicit about it?
Yeah, sure, I can go with that. I've heard some people like criticize our that we've chosen to be so explicit about it because it's like, oh, do we have to do a lot of stuff about that? But I think it's just important to do the right thing from the beginning and like lay the right foundation from the start. And for me, it's like, for example, maybe we want to go into, you know, Norse mythology or something and have that as a big study group. Well, I think anybody with any like background, ethnicity, or like racial features, or what do you want to call it, should be able to be in such a study group and not feel uncomfortable because someone is like a Nazi. You know, it's pretty basic to me. Like, okay, we need to, of course, because discrimination can be seen more of like an organization not discriminating its members. But I also think that it's important to say that we work against oppression because there could be oppression between different members and stuff like that. So I think astrology is such a broad subject, which is like people with lots of different philosophies and ideas and spiritual beliefs and all of that. It can foster a lot of good ideas, and it can foster a lot of like discriminatory ideas. So I think it's important that, because you probably come to that as well, but we are open to like multiplicity in astrological philosophies, practices, theories, all of that. But we think we need to also have the non-discriminatory thing to like have an open and like have an open discussion, but also put like, okay, this is not okay. We put a limit somewhere to
Yeah.
where you, yeah.
It makes sense. And you're using the example with for instance, a Nazi that would be, but would it be possible for you to come with some other examples just to make it a bit more concrete? What could those examples be of oppression or discriminatory behavior within the field of astrology?
I was thinking of like disability injustice, saying that someone with the psychiatric diagnosis could never work as an astrologer, or like stuff like that. I mean, I've heard that. I do have disability myself, and I've heard so many times that, oh, if you have that, you can never work as an astrologer, or people make assumptions about diagnosis because of your birth chart or something like that. And I think that's somewhere we shouldn't go, you know. What do you think, Anna?
Well, absolutely, and that's where ethics comes. That's, for me, ethics is very, very important in astrology. It's like the base for everything. But I also wanted to say, from another perspective, astrologers are discriminated because they do astrology. So that's another side of it, that astrology as a profession is not very common, and you can face different kinds of problem situations because you are an astrologer. So this is another thing that you might need support with when you want to be an astrologer, or you're practicing astrology. So there's some issues there that could be good to have support with too.
Do you want
I think
to bring up your example, or because I know you have a good one about healthcare?
Yeah, well, for example, when I went to the healthcare center and they asked my profession, and I said that I'm an astrologer, and they said, no, but we should put your other profession, like I'm a nurse too, I'm a developmental psychologist too, you know. No, but shouldn't we put nurse, you know? And I said, no, we should put astrologer because that's my profession. So, you know, that's
it makes sense.
how it is.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, it is, for most people, it is. People think it's quite funny every time you mention that you're an astrologer. Like when I mention I'm an astrologer, people are always giggling a bit. Like, yeah, it's like it's a party trick or something. It's so I really think that's an excellent point. And I think actually I get so used to being this discriminated that I don't even recognize it anymore. So it's like almost just part of the job description for astrologers that that we are almost like these clownish archetypes in many ways.
Definitely. And I don't think that's the way it should be. Like, I don't think that's the way it should be. So I think that's a powerful thing to speak about discrimination and like oppression and those terms about astrologers. I think that can be a empowering tool, you know.
Yeah.
And that comes to our, our point about strengthening the position of astrology in society. That goes hand in hand with our anti-discrimination and anti-oppression types of things we've written.
Beautiful. It's Stjernerne or the Stars used to be a text-based magazine that was only about astrological knowledge. But then a couple of months ago, we kind of opened up and we started doing these webinars, and it has been a huge success. And people don't feel alone anymore. And one of the things that we are publishing the next 3 months, that's interviews with an imam, a Christian priest, a astrophysicist, one of the almost chairman of the atheistic society in Denmark. Just to name a couple of examples where we actually try to bridge this gap across domains that normally would seem completely disintegrated. Yeah, so I'm just trying to express my support to the two of you and your mission, and I really understand it, and I'm with you in this quest. So okay, so Charlie, you said that there was the whole thing with the sun and the moon, and you got the inspiration from this other organization in the States called Aya, no? Yes? Yeah. But I guess that's, and perhaps I'm gonna put words into your mouth, but then I'll be excused. But that's a very positive framing, one might say. But I'm also interested in knowing whether there is a quote unquote negative or reactionary, or that you're trying to revolt. That's such a harsh word, but I'm interested in what you see the current environment in the Nordic part of Europe is within the astrological field, like whether you see a need to manifest, to implement, to transcend some of the existing values. Yeah, how do you perceive the current circumstances within the astrological field?
Well, I mostly, I hang out a lot on Twitter, or X as it's called now. I don't care. I actually but I do have a lot of international friends, but they're mostly US based. But then I see a very like the Swedish astrological community is like in pieces. It's like it doesn't have a functioning organization at all. Like everything has just fallen to pieces, and the biggest Facebook group has been like shut down for a couple of weeks now, where we're trying to like reorganize it and all of that. So the Swedish context is like we need to get organized. That's definitely a feeling I have. Then I know that there is a completely different situation in Denmark and in Finland and all of that, but I do think that we benefit from like hanging out together and sharing experiences across the borders. What do you think, Anna?
I think we have different communities in our countries, and I would be very interested to know more about that. And also, when talking about, I have to go back to what you said about interviewing these different scientists and people, because our astrological history in the Nordic countries is like lacking, because there has not been interest enough to write, to research, and to give us the identity from the history we have with astrology. And of course that is different than you have in the States or anywhere else. So we have a very unique perspective, and that's why I also think that we need a unique organization for our countries and cultures practicing astrology.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, it's my impression that in Denmark there is different astrological communities, but throughout the history, and I'm using a very strong term now, and I might get people writing me angry emails when I say this, but it seems like there's also been like almost wars between different communities in Denmark. Like without mentioning any names, like more, let's say, modern people and more esoteric people. Like it's been quite like communities that instead of trying to develop astrology as a field and building bridges to society, enhancing astrology, that they were more that they cared more about finding out who was right within the astrological field. Yeah, which is of course a pity. But yeah.
And there I
Okay.
think
Yeah.
the whole like centrality and multiplicity and the sun and the moon working together, I think that's important. So one like community, like say Vedic astrology, like something like that, that they're so focused on their own thing that that becomes like a centrality and they forget the multiplicity of others. I think there needs to be like a good communication between the like smaller communities and the large community, and that you can have that centralized and decentralized thing in the astrological community in general, you know.
Makes sense. My astrological mentor is called Derek Seagriff. I don't know whether you know him, but he's English, but he lives in Denmark, but is married to a Norwegian opera singer. And he's quite old. I mean, he's, I don't know, 75 now. But he used to tell me stories that in the 90s there was actually a vibrant Scandinavian communities. That there were conferences in Malmö and southern part of Sweden where a lot of Danish and Swedish astrologers would go together and have like several days together, really enjoying themselves, and that there really was this vibrant, at least Danish and Swedish astrological community. But it kind of, I don't know what happened. I never got that story, but that it kind of fell apart and has been dead the last approximately 24 years, I guess. Yeah.
And I think that oh sorry.
No, sorry, Charlie. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that comes into what Anna was talking about, that we have lost part of our history, and that we don't lack history, but it's just not like coherently written down anywhere. So that could be possibly something for Naya to have like a little bit of history of Nordic astrology on the website or something like that. That's just an idea I have.
Wow. I'm just curious, when do any of you know when like the Nordic astrology started? Like what's the last recording? When do you know this, Anna? Like when did it start? The our history, sort of say.
Well, we had Ceres cults in our ancient
You had what,
people
sorry?
living in Sweden, and Ceres cults, for example,
Yeah.
happenings. I mean, we have ancient texts in Swedish where we can also read about, I mean, also with the plague, there were texts in Swedish about the stars, the planets connecting to the plague. So, I mean, we have records, but we need to research them a bit more, I think.
And
Wow.
I think that also talks about the whole thing where I think, well, modern astrologers, they use Uranus as a ruler of astrology, so to say. I'm a Hellenistic or ancient traditional type of person, so I use Mercury as a ruler of astrology. And for me, Mercury is very much like going back and forth, very much the hermeneutic process of, you know, gathering information and then having some sort of interpretation of the information and going back and forth. And I think astrology, I've been trying to talk with non-astrologers about the field of astrology, and I feel like explaining it is very much like saying, so we have this very spiritual part of it, but we also have this very like scientific part of it. And but still the religious community doesn't like us and the scientific community doesn't like us. So it's very precarious role or like position that astrology has. And I think that what we want with Naya is to not let go any of those positions of like having the spiritual practice of astrology, which can be just studying astrology can be a spiritual practice for many. But we also want to keep, I mean, it's based on astronomy, so of course it's based on mathematics and physics and observation and like scientific observation and scientific methods. and I think studying history of astrology, studying all these should be done in a more scientific way, but we also need the spiritual part of it. And that's probably like a bit provoking to people who are like strictly scientific or strictly spiritual, but I think it's important to have those perspectives.
I love the way that you are saying this, and I love the way that you are using Mercury, because he was the only archetype that could go like to hell and to the earth and to the gods, like in regard, like he was the only one who was free to enter all the worlds,
Yeah.
and so yeah, it makes super sense that you're using Mercury as a metaphor for that, and I also see the potential of that it will provoke some, but yeah, but things, yeah, the future is exciting, and the astrology that we are talking about now, it might not be the astrology that people will be talking about in 10 or 15 years, and it seems like a lot of things are happening, of course, within the astrological community, but also, yeah, the space between astrology and other domains of science. Yeah, it's extremely interesting. So
I was thinking, sorry, but I was just thinking about the point on our website where we say we want to encourage and facilitate studies of topics and fields related to, or not related to, but intersecting with astrology. So we want to encourage studies of like history or sociology, or what could be more, medicine. Do you have more examples, Anne? We've been talking about this.
Yeah, I think those are the basics.
Philosophy,
yeah.
a lot of different things, but because there is this American, no, she's not American, she's Australian astrologer called Kelly Surtees, and she's been talking about like cross-pollinating astrology with other fields, and that knowledge will strengthen both astrology and the other topics. Like, say for example, Cosmos and Psyche by the pretty famous Richard Tarnas. Like he did like this whole study of history before, and then he just went boom, did an astrology book about history and astrology. I think those kind of things. Or Alice Barkley Cat, they published this book called Post-Colonial Astrology with a sociological take on it. And I think those kinds of studies will just strengthen both the other topics, but also astrology. So
interesting. I have a very practical example. I live on a very small island in the southern part of Denmark now. I used to live in Copenhagen, but we moved here 1.5 years ago. And then there is quite a famous body worker here on my island, and we made an experiment where when she was not able to find the symptom of the patient she had, that she would ask the person whether it was okay for an astrologer to look at the chart, and then she would send the astrological dates to me, and then I would try to find traumas, either past life traumas or current life traumas, and then they would kind of bring those traumas and the astrological trauma into the bodywork. And a lot of the times it went really well. Like it was something that they hadn't seen, like either the upbringing, of course, but also the dynamic between parents and things like that. It was just an example of how these cross-domain activities can be beneficial for both domains. Yeah. So to go a bit back to your organization, so why should people join your organization? Like for people watching this video, why should people join?
Anna, go ahead.
They should join because they can talk to each other. Astrology doesn't have to be a lonely profession or a lonely studies. It's fun to be together and do things together, and you get new ideas. And I mean, look at us. Charlie is Hellenistic astrologer. She could, you could be my child, almost like age difference. I mean, and we connected through this chat room, and I mean, it's amazing what people you meet through astrology and how you can learn from each other and how that can enrich you. That's my take on it.
Yeah. And I also think about the being alone in astrology part. I heard it might be like it was some astrologer. It might be my teacher Adam Allenboss, I'm not sure, but someone said recently that why should you be alone in astrological studies? Like you can study anything with astrology. You can study the tarot, you can study history, you can study TV, like you can study the charts of actors or actresses, you know, stuff like that. You can have the astrology of like anything, and that's beautiful. And you can talk about all of that in Naya, so
Nice. So what's you were talking about the gathering that you're gonna probably have in Stockholm in
July
half a year.
6th. Yeah.
Yeah, July 6th. Yes.
It's a Saturday, yeah. So mark your
Yeah.
calendars if you wanna. We hope to have like a both in person, like be there present, but you can also be participate via Zoom. So that's what we hope to. But it's very early in the stages, but we are marking our calendars for that date. So we hope a lot of other people do too.
And what will there be something happening before July the 6th from your organizational point of view? Like, will you have any events or any meetings or any talks or?
Online, absolutely. Tell about your talk, Charlie. That's upcoming now.
Yeah, I have a talk coming up in 2 days on Sunday, where me and another person in Naya called Thomas will be talking about ancient astrology and like an introduction to ancient astrology and what it is. And we hope to have more of those like topics and talks on Zoom, but they will be announced on both the Naya Facebook group, but also the Naya Facebook site, and we'll make an events tab on the website so people can find that easily too. So.
Wow, super cool. Is there anything that I didn't ask about that you would like to answer? Like, or is there anything that I should have asked about, or something that you are thinking like, oh, I wanted to say that, or yeah, this goes to Charlie and Anna, both of you.
I wanted
Well,
to mention when we talk. Sorry, do you want to go, Charlie?
you go.
I just wanted to mention when we talk about the history of astrology that I will publish a book in Swedish where you have a section on some history, if you're interested in that, on a company in Sweden. So it will be available in Swedish.
Super cool. Thanks. Yes.
Very nice. Well, I was very curious about having a discussion that you mentioned, Johannes, about the value-based astrology versus a neutral. I don't know if we touched on that, but I was like, oh, I want to hear what your thoughts on this.
Yeah. I don't think we touched it, but let's definitely talk about it. And if I should I start? Yeah. So yeah, we were talking about because I sent you some questions, some thoughts prior to this interview, and one of the thoughts that I had was to elaborate, to discuss a bit about the potential dichotomy or binary narratives about having a very value-based, or like a continuum of a value-based astrology or very neutral astrology on this continuum. And Charlie was so kind asking me what I meant about this those two concepts of value-based versus neutral astrology, and I actually think that the reason why I asked this question was that I'm very much confused myself about this, because I speak to so many astrologers, and And for instance, I spoke to a very controversial astrologer from Norway. I don't know whether you know him, but he's called Christian Påske. Do you know him? No? Okay. Very, very controversial. Like, to be honest, I don't know that much about the Norwegian community, but from what I'm seeing, he was actually excluded from the Norwegian community because of his opinions. Like, he believes the Earth is flat, and he based his astrology about that the Earth is flat. And like, I don't care whether the Earth is round or flat. Like, that's not my business. It's not whatever. What I do care about, that I know that Christian Påske is such a friendly man. Wow, he is friendly, and I love chatting with him, and his interesting stories, and he's very knowledgeable. But he himself has a view on astrology that it is purely mathematical, and it's purely neutral, and it should never be politicized. It should never be infused with values, which is I don't know whether it's a paradox, but he himself has become a victim, I would say, of a certain distinct way of politicizing astrology, because he's been doomed not appropriate for the Norwegian community. So I guess that was the background. And just because I think these thoughts myself, and because I have a feeling that both Charlie and Anne are people that have thoughts about these things themselves, then it would be interesting just to get inside of the heads of the two of you about this mess that I'm trying to elaborate about. What are you? What? Yeah, okay. Let me know your thoughts, Charlie or Anna.
Yeah, I want to go back to the mercurial view of astrology, like Mercury going back and forth, going deep back into the underworld and coming back alive, and being the morning star and the evening star and all that. And for me, astrology needs to have both the neutral point of view, where you just observe, like you do many times in science, and sometimes you need to interpret. And some astrologers will need to be the more objective type of person, and some astrologers will be like, yeah, but astrology is a study of time, and time is like, we're studying both time as a more objective thing, where we use astronomy charts, and at this time this planet will be there and all that. But we also have this point of view of studying astrology with seeing time as like a qualitative thing, like the quality of time. What does Pluto in Aquarius say about the quality of our time? And I think that some astrologies will be more like, this is just what's happening in the sky and la la la. And some astrologies will be more interpretative, and that will be completely fine. It's like the sun and the moon again, that some things will need to coexist. Like, the sun and the moon doesn't try to like exclude each other. It's just night and day. And astrology and the zodiac is like based on light and dark, and like the existence of night and day and all that. So to me, it doesn't have to be that binary, and I am non-binary, so like, I will have that point of view. So
makes sense. Do you have some thoughts about this, Anna?
Yeah, many thoughts, I think, but I don't think that we can be totally objective, never. I mean, I don't think that we are tabula rasa. I think that we have always the place where we're coming from, and that will always affect us somehow. And what's important is to be aware of where you're coming from, aware of this is my standpoint. And also with astrology, I mean, the time, astrology 500 years ago was not the same, and not meant for the same reasons as astrology is today. So we also look at it from the perspective of where we are today and what we need from astrology also today. And it's even we have techniques that are ancient and things that are ancient, still we need to to get them into this day and to the modern way of what we need to do. So yeah, you could talk about this for hours, but awareness of our own backgrounds and where we come from, I think is very important when we work with, as astrologers, a lot with people.
Wow.
I don't know if
Makes
you got
sense.
an answer even, but
No, I
from
didn't.
either of us.
But that wasn't the point either. It's just to paint this picture that we're painting, and I think you both of you use some nice colors. So I'm very happy about the picture that we have been painting for this hour. Yeah. So I just want to say thank you to the both of you. Thank you so much for your time, and
Thank you.
and I really, really have a good feeling about your initiative. Like, I think it's gonna be so grand. So, and yeah,
I just want to say also that if people are interested in becoming part of the leadership, you can just email us at info@nordicyoungastrologers.com or send us a message on to our Facebook page or something like that, and we'll be like, okay, how to get in touch and all of that. So
super.
because we need people who can be part of the leadership and all of that. So.
Definitely, I'll make sure that the different videos that we're gonna get out of this interview, that there will be an email address below. So definitely, I'm gonna stop the recording now, and I'm
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.